Jitendra, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay, can you see my first slide?
Yep.
Good morning, Jambo, Kia ora, Bulasia, Namaste, and good day. My name is Jitendra Prasad, and I'm the district membership chair for coordinator for District 9620. And on behalf of District Governor Paul Roger and the membership team, it gives me profound pleasure to welcome you all here this morning, this evening, and whatever time you are there in the time zone. Rotary International President Stephanie, District Governor Paul Roger, our fellow presenters, past district governors on this forum, fellow Rotarians, thank you for being here this morning, and thank you for your passion and your love and your unwavering dedication and commitment as Rotarians to making a positive impact in our communities. Your tireless efforts in service both locally and globally have been nothing short of inspirational. As Rotarians, you and we have continuously exemplified the true spirit of selflessness, embodying the ideals of Rotary in every project, event, and initiative that you take. So once again, thank you all for being here, and I'll start the meeting with the acknowledgement of country by my fellow membership committee member, Frank.
Hello, everybody. We would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we stand on, the Chagara and Turrbal people. We meet to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And sovereignty has never ceased. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frank, and really appreciate that. And moving on, could I now please, I'd like to introduce the presenters for today. And we have our Rotary International President-elect Stephanie, and then that will be followed by past district governor and aide to Stephanie, Tom Gump. And then we'll have past district governor of 9620, Doug St. Clair, followed by past president of my club, Rotary Club of Brisbane International. It's really good to see Soko coming on board as a presenter. And then the agenda, as I said, after that we will go into a breakout room. Shubi will organize a breakout room which has been allocated into different strategic priorities that we've got. And then we'll spend 10 minutes in the breakout room, and then we come back to the main room again and have a chat, have a panel session, and we'll move towards concluding at around about 10:30. So with these few words, and well, let's hear a warm welcome from our district governor, Paul Roger, who has reminded me that 1 month is almost finishing. And I said to him that he's done an exceptionally awesome job so far. And let's hear from our district governor, Paul Roger. Thank you.
Paul, are you on mute?
There we go. I was clicking on it, it wasn't working. So my greatest fear for this morning is the technology side of these things. It's always a worry that it won't do what it's told. Anyway, good morning, everybody from Brisbane in Queensland, Australia. It's an absolutely beautiful morning here today, and the sun is out, so the temperature is rising rapidly from some single digits overnight. But we'll have a 22 to 25 degree Celsius day today. So I welcome everybody from all around the world. There's a fantastic number. I see there's over 90 people now joined, and it keeps going up as we're talking. So it's really, really super. I'd like to take initial opportunity just to thank Jitendra and his committee for putting this summit together. I know they've put a tremendous amount of work into it since the first idea, and it's so far so good. It's looking really, really good. And a special welcome to Stephanie as our international president-elect, and her aide Tom. I'm really glad that you could join us on your Saturday evenings over across the pond in America. So lovely to have you with us, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from all the presenters this morning as we work through different aspects of to use Tony's words earlier, the only game in town at the moment. So I just like, from a personal perspective, as part of my welcome, to basically use an analogy that I saw the other day from a life and health perspective, and it was a story about a burning fire, and it made me think about Rotary clubs as fires, and how we put a lot of effort into building a fire and lighting a fire and bringing it to life. And when you imagine in your mind that fire is burning beautifully either in a controlled fireplace or in a fire pit or whatever, it brings light and it brings warmth, and to some people may mean be a source of cooking and sustenance and nice food, etc. But when you sit and watch that fire, if you don't do anything with it, it will slowly start to lessen and fade. And as we know, if you don't tend a fire once it's lit, it can die away. So fires need to be given fuel. You constantly need to be bringing new fuel into the fire to keep it burning, to make sure that they continue to do what it's there for and continue to provide the expectations that we have of a lovely fire. So likening that to Rotary clubs, it gave me food for thought, literally, that in a lot of places we're pretty good at working out where we want a fire and lighting a fire, but we don't seem to be quite as good these days as keeping the fires burning. So I just wanted to start today off with that as a little thought process. I'm sure we'll hear more from our presenters as we go, but once again, welcome everybody to District 9620's membership summit, although it's really technically an international summit now. It's got much bigger than one district. So I'll hand back to Jitendra. Thank you.
Thank you very much, District Governor Paul, and thank you very much for that warm welcome and the scenario about fire. And so true that
recording in progress.
The analogy that you used about the fire, and the fire needs to continue to burn. So let's see where the fire is, and let's quickly statistics tell us a lot of story, and let's see what the statistics of our district is at the moment, District 9620. And as you said, it is not purely restricted to 9620, but I think importantly, just wanted to present where we stand in terms of my district. We've got 2,021 members in 103 clubs, and we are considered to be the largest district in Zone 8. And in terms of demography, 31.8% is women, and under 40 is 7.5%. Membership gains in the last 3 years, we've had 1,050 members gain, and unfortunately 1378 lost. So that's where the challenge is, and I guess the purpose of today's summit. Reasons for leaving: 30% cost of time, 23% club environment, and 19% unmet expectations. And when you total that up, 42 is within us. So that's where the analogy of the fire comes in, DG Paul, where we're going to continue to put the right amount of fuel in so that the 42% is becoming lesser and lesser, because that is within our control, I believe. Why we joined Rotary is community service, friendship, international service, professional connections. And that's based also on Rotary and Rotaractors as well. But clearly, friendship and community service is way up in the reasons why people join. And why we leave Rotary? Club does not represent my values. Club's lack of community impact. And in Rotaractors, you see 56% as personal circumstances. And so, what are the critical questions for membership? Therefore, and I think I, for one, recognize that we are a membership organization. Our biggest, greatest asset of Rotary is members and the time. So the two critical questions that comes to mind is do more and grow more. And that is where the platform of this summit is. And we are basing the do more, grow more, and in terms of the challenges for our district and Rotary in general, we are looking at and aligning it to the Rotary International strategic priorities, which is also very much enshrined in our District 9620 strategic plan, which is to increase our impact, enhance participation, engagement, increase our ability to adopt and expand our reach. So with this platform and to set the theme and set the pace, I'll now introduce or welcome our Rotary International President-elect Stephanie. And to get the ball rolling, I met Stephanie at the Melbourne conference, and she really lit the fire in me by making one comment, and that was that if we are not careful, we might not have Rotary for our grandkids. After this presentation, I'm going to my grandson's second birthday celebration. And I want him to enjoy Rotary as much as we have. I don't want to see Rotary as what happened to JCs and other organizations. That's the theme. And thank you, Stephanie, for bringing that into reality, that if it is to happen, it is to be with us and for us to be the change. So with these few words, let's welcome Stephanie and spend the next 10 minutes with her in terms of increasing our impact in Rotary. Thank you.
Thank you, Jitendra, for that welcome and family of Rotary. I'm so delighted to be with you this morning because, as Jitendra said, membership is extremely important for everything that we do in Rotary. I often say that I love Rotary, just like you do. Look at us. There are 98 of us who are on this call right now. And, there are a lot of things we could be doing, but we chose to be on this call to talk about membership. And why is that so important? Well, to me, it's really simple. We are a membership organization that does service. And frankly, the more members we have, the more service we can do. The less members we have, the less service we do. But put another way, I like to also say, everything that we do in Rotary is fabulous. Empowering girls and eradicating polio and promoting positive peace and mental health. It's fabulous. But if we don't have members to do it, so what? So we really need to have a focus on membership. So I'm delighted that you've established the 4 priorities as the focus and the foundation for your seminar this morning, because the action plan, the priorities of the action plan really are our guideposts, if you will. They're what we need every club in the Rotary world to grab onto and take a look at and ask the question, how does this priority make sense for my club locally? Because the answers will vary from place to place. Because the way Rotary is done in Australia is different than the way it's done in India, and different than the way it's done in Canada, and different than the way it's done in Pennsylvania. So every club has to look at it and understand what does it mean for us locally? How do we use what the priority is suggesting for our club to do one of two things, either to strengthen our club if we're in a legacy club, or if we're looking at creating new clubs and creating a new culture, how do we use these priorities to have an influence in what we do? So the very first priority, as you've heard, is increase our impact. This one is the priority that's all about measurement and making sure that we are having a great impact in the work that we do. At the corporate level, many of you know that Rotary International addressed this several years ago on the foundation side as we looked at our work in grants. And you may remember when a while back we had matching grants, and the matching grant program was great. You could spend as little as $1,000 and get a grant and build a well somewhere. But the problem was sustainability wasn't built into that. So 10 years after that well was put in, a Rotarian's family could visit that location and they'd see the well was dry, that there was a rusted sign hanging off a post that said this well was put here by Rotary. So it didn't really help the community, and it didn't help the image of Rotary to have those kinds of issues with the work that we were doing. So the Rotary Foundation said we really need to develop a different kind of plan, and that's where Future Vision came. But now, even beyond that, the Rotary Foundation said, we really have the capacity to have a greater impact around the world. And so programs of scale were developed in the Rotary Foundation. And you may recall that the very first one was a project to eliminate malaria in the country of Zambia. Talk about impact, getting rid of malaria in an entire country. Now, these are big projects. These are big grants. They're $2 million grants. The current one is a project to establish centers in Egypt to eradicate cervical cancer, to deal with cervical cancer for women. So Rotary's foundation is looking forward and making those steps, taking those steps to create projects and work that really has a tremendous impact on the world and in our communities. So what does this mean for our clubs? Well, it means that we take a look at our clubs and we start with simple steps. We start with assessment. Take a look at what's happening in your community and make decisions based on what needs to be done. So, I think many of you may have heard the story about Oprah Winfrey. The first time she went into Africa to build a girls' school, she didn't succeed. It was a failure because she went in thinking she knew what they needed. And so she created a program, but what ended up happening in some of the process, the girls were taking books home to read, and on the way home, they were getting beat up by other girls. Well, that was not a great way for young women to become empowered. So Oprah and her team stepped back. And when they did, they then worked with the local community to understand more about the culture and the customs and what was happening. And when they went in the second time, of course, they became much more successful. So her girls' school in Kenya is now considered to be definitely a success. But she had to make that first initial mistake and then step back and figure out, how do we correct this? And the answer was to work with the community and to do an assessment about what was actually needed. When you identify the projects that are most needed in your community and put creativity and effort to those things that need to be done, you also want to make sure that you celebrate the success of that. So that means celebrating in a public-facing way. Let's face it, everybody on this call, all 98 of us, we know what Rotary is. It's the people who aren't on this call, the people who are walking around Brisbane this morning. who don't know what Rotary is. And that's really where we want to share our messaging and to make sure that people understand the great work that we do. So to sum up, this particular priority is about measurement. I want you to think about those times when you decide to go on a diet, or somebody you know goes on a diet. The very first thing you have to do is step on the scale. You have to do an assessment of where you're starting. What's the starting point? Then you employ all of the actions and the things that you're going to do, and then you get on the scale again to see if it worked. That's exactly what measurement is about. It helps us focus our work at hand to see, are we making progress? Are we having an impact? Two quick stories here. You all remember when Ian Risley was president. He was a fabulous president, a great environmentalist, and he asked all of us to do what? To plant trees. And that's what we did. We all went out and we planted trees. And what we did was we planted a tree for every member in our club. Then we sent all those numbers to Evanston, and that's where it stopped. But you see, when you're talking about impact, you have to have more than input, output, outcome. You have to go all the way to impact. What we should have done was done some measurement for what did planting all those trees in an area do for soil erosion? What did planting trees in certain areas do for CO2 in the atmosphere? We really needed to take it a step further to talk about impact. Contrast that with what we do with polio eradication. From the beginning, we've always had strong impact statements. We've been able to say, you know, when polio is eradicated, there will be 11 million children every year that won't get this crippling disease. You know, there will be approximately US $85 million every year that won't be spent on ancillary healthcare issues like post-polio syndrome. We've always been able to say that. And those are the kinds of statements that attracted the attention of partners as well as potential members. They're people who joined Rotary because of our work with polio eradication. But our members, Bill and Melinda Gates and the World Health Organization and the Center for Disease Control and the Gavi Vaccine Alliance, they paid attention to those statements and said, you know, this is work that Rotary's doing that's having an impact on the world, and we need to be a part of that. So back to our project with trees. I hope we do it again. It's a fabulous way to help our environment. But the learning that we have had since that is that we really need to take steps to further increase the awareness and the impact about what we do. So when we can do that, when we can measure, when we can start with assessment, when we can create these kinds of activities that are really changing our communities or changing the world, and then tell the story about what we did, that's when we meet the priority, and that's when we know we have increased our impact. So I'll stop there, and I think it's time for us to move on to our second priority.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for those wonderful comments and directions. And it's clear, isn't it, that we don't plan to fail; we just fail to plan. And I think we've heard this before, that never doubt a group of small, thoughtful and dedicated citizens can change the world. And aren't we doing just that? So
absolutely.
Thank you. Now let's move on to the next priority, and that is a priority in terms of engagement. And I'd like to invite the aide to our Rotary International President-elect and club strategist, past District Governor Tom Gum. Tom, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for inviting us to come speak tonight. We couldn't be more excited. So we were asked as the second priority to talk about enhancing participant engagement. So they were very intentional. When Stephanie headed up this committee with 3 trustees and 3 directors, they were very intentional with the verbiage that they used. And they used the word participant as opposed to using the word member or the word Rotarian or the word Rotaractor. They used participant. And why did they use the word participant? Because Rotary affects so many people. So many people have life-changing experiences because of what we do. Think of those people who are Rotary Youth Exchange students. Think about the Peace Fellows. Think about all those people who are served by us in our global and local service projects. All of those are participants, anyone that we come in contact with. You know, it's interesting because we talked about your membership chair today for the district talked about how people come in and people go out. And we gain about 150,000 each year, but we lose a little more than that every year. But when we lose those individuals, they leave because they're not happy with the club experience. For whatever reason they leave, they're not happy. They might say negative things about us, which not only hurts our current numbers, but hurts future numbers. So Rotary is doing something about it. They have come up with a department called the Enhancing Participant Engagement Department. And they actually have $19.5 million that they're spending in doing things such as running our database, actually helping my Rotary to do better, things like that. So what we're trying to do with this particular strategic plan priority is we're trying not so much to focus on the numbers. Yes, the numbers are important, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to add value to the members. You know, we talked about having to keep the members that we have. Those are our best customers. You know, Rotary is like any other business. It is delivering a product, and that product is the club experience. And if our experience is great, our members will stay. They'll invite their family members. They'll ask their friends and relatives to join. However, if our product's not good, they're going to leave. So that's why we need to work on this enhancing participant engagement. So what does that mean? Well, we have to support our clubs in your district, District 9620, in enhancing the experience itself. We need to do an assessment and find out, like Stephanie was saying, do an assessment for grants. That community needs assessment. We have to regularly, and Rotary recommends once a year, doing a survey. The reason we do it once a year is because people are joining our clubs and people are leaving our clubs. So the culture is changing, and we want to make sure what the current culture wants, and we want to actually deliver that. But we want to deliver it in a way where we're focusing on the individuals who are the participants, our club members, those people we serve, everyone who comes in contact with us. So we have to find out what they want. Do they want personal development? Do they want to develop their skills? And the other thing we need to do is we need to make sure that if our club members aren't happy and they let us know in their survey why they're not happy, we need to make changes in our club to give them what they wanted. Or we can actually start a new club, and it could be a Rotaract club, it could be a Rotary club that reaches those people, those potential people of action where they are. So what does this mean for District 9620 and the clubs in the 9620? We want to get to the point, we just don't talk about numbers, but how do we add value? How do we give them the value that they came? You know, it's interesting to watch the statistics that went up today about why people leave. Unmet expectations were part of it. I mean, if you go to Rotary's website, we have a beautiful website. They can look at all kinds of different things that we do, fellowships and all kinds of things. But if we don't deliver that at the club level, that's where people know. People don't leave Rotary International. People leave their club. And they leave their club because they expected something and we didn't deliver it. Or it changed and they don't like the new product that we're delivering. We also have to build connections with people. Like Stephanie says, we have to be outward facing. I love it when we go to international conventions and we see all our friends there. I love it when we're part of action groups and fellowships. But we're only talking to ourselves. When we do our service projects in the clubs in District 9620, bring your friends, bring your family members, bring the people you work with or worship with or your neighbors. And then the other thing that can help us with, we can actually use the Rotary's Learning Center. And only a small percentage, depending on which survey, 7 to 10% of our Rotarians actually use Rotary's Learning Center. There are all kinds of courses in there. How to make your club stronger, how to attract members, how to engage members, how to start new clubs, how to nurture new clubs after they started. That's an easy way to actually get the knowledge that you need. And of course, you could always reach out to RIPE, Stephanie, and I. We're happy to help you.